Hello. What's that famous saying? I'm back. Anyway, my story is called Tante Gerda. Tante is auntie and Gerda is a very common German name. Apparently, I was never quite sure what the relationship was, but she was married to a man named Uncle is Uncle Ernst, whom I adored. He was this huge guy. He towered by, I don't know, almost a foot over my dad. You know, remember my dad was French. They're not exactly known for being 6 feet and over, and he wasn't. But Uncle Ernst definitely was. He towered over everything, and he was very gentle and very, very sweet. The total opposite. My father was very outgoing. My personality is from my dad. My dad would throw arms in the air and say, "Oh, well, nice to see you." And he was a big hugger, where Uncle Ernst was just a quiet, sweet, gentle man. But they were very good friends. I was told that he was a distant relative. Anyway, he was married to Tante Gerda. Well, because there may be children watching at one point or another, I really don't want to say how my father described Tante Gerda. Let us suffice to say that it would have had something to do with the red light district. Anyway, his opinion of her was like this. My mother didn't like her because she had invited them at one point to our house, and Gerda smoked. And inadvertently, Gerda, who was very demonstrative, did the most beautiful golden yellow hair. I mean, I loved her hair. And she was sweet, but she always did this thing with her cigarette. So guess what? She burned a hole in my mother's curtains. Oh my God. And my mom did not forget. She would always say, "Well, no, we're not going to invite them again because the last time they were here, you know, she burned that hole in my curtain and it can't be fixed." And my father would say, "Just make the fold a different way so you can't see it." "No, you can always see it. I always know it's there. And no, I don't want them in my house." And my father said, "Okay, fine. Well, then we'll have to go visit them sometime." So this time my mother and I and my dad, we were all going to go visit Tante Gerda and Uncle Ernst. And they lived not very close to us. And among other things, we had to get on the streetcar. So at the last minute, my dad decided that he wasn't going to go. So it was just my mother and I. So anyway, you know, we walked for like 10,000 miles before we got to the ferry boat, and then we took the ferry boat, and then we went to the streetcar. Well, there were 2 streetcars that came, and they were so full that we couldn't get on it. So then a third one came, and my mother put me in there first, and then she tried to get in, and then you could hear this ping, 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 ping. Well, that meant they were going to leave. My mother was standing on the step. She was not in the streetcar trying to get in. And the thing just started moving. So a guy that had been standing in the streetcar next to me, this was a very common occurrence because a lot of men had lost an arm in the war, and they had you could see this hand that was sort of formed, and it was black. It looked like black leather. Well, that always meant, okay, they had an artificial arm. So it wasn't unusual to see that. And as the doors were closing, he put his arm in there. And the streetcar driver was so upset. "Get that arm out of there." And the guy said, "What are you talking about? You see this little girl? That's her mother hanging on outside there. You're actually going to take off, and this woman is out there? She's not, well, she's just going to have to jump off." And this guy said, "Are you nuts? What is wrong with you?" You really think that a woman whose child is in here is going to jump off and let her child? Of course not. Stop the goddamn streetcar. What is wrong with you? So this man pulled the emergency brake. Because, my mother was hanging on out there, and it was just horrible. I kept thinking, well, I should have just gone in between those doors. Well, I wouldn't be here today. But anyway, there was a big to-do, and the guy that was running the streetcar was really, really upset, and everybody in the streetcar was complaining, well, we've got things to do. We've got places to go. Just get on with it. Throw that little girl and the woman off. And the man that had that fake arm said, we're not throwing anybody off. This is ridiculous. They have a right to be here. So anyway, he helped my mother in, and it was just packed. So I thought, well, I really don't like this. This is not a whole lot of fun. So this is what I did. I mean, I'm like, I don't know, 6. And I went. And people would turn around and there was nothing. Then they'd look down and they'd go, what the hell? What is this kid doing? And the man with the one arm said, could you just move over a little bit? She's trying to get away from the door, but that was hitting everybody. My mother just started laughing. And it was a fun ride because we were just being jostled around. And anyway, we finally got to our destination, and we went to Tante Gerda's apartment where she lived with Uncle Ernst. They were up on the 2nd floor, and they had a balcony. Oh, that was really fun. And she always had stuff for me to do. She used to save little pieces of fabric in different colors, and she'd hand them to me, and she'd say, okay, make something. So I would put all the stuff together the way I thought it should look. And it was always fun. And when we got in there, she said, you'll never know what I did. I made a Bienenstichkuchen. It's a bee sting cake. Oh my God, I loved those cakes. It was like a yellow cake layer, only about this big. And then the filling was creamy. I don't know. I'm going to actually have to look up a recipe to see if I can do it. The whole thing was only about this tall, but it had this creamy off-white filling that I know it had honey in it. And then the top had a glaze on it with butter and slivered almonds. And I loved that cake. Oh, it was so good. So Tante Gerda said to me, well, she said, why don't you set the coffee table for us? It's going to be Uncle Ernst, me, you, and your mama. And I said, okay, well, where is everything? Well, here, in that drawer. So I looked in the drawer and I thought, that's really weird. Where's the other stuff? And my mother said, what's going on? Why are you not bringing the cake forks and the spoons and everything? And I said, well, where is everything? And my mother said, what are you talking about? It's right there in that drawer. And I said, well, I don't think so because it's all the same. And my mother said, what do you mean it's all the same? I said, look, it's every knife and every fork and they all look alike. And my mother said, well, that's how it's supposed to be. And I went, no. Really? But it's more fun at our house. Our house meant my grandmother had one bag, and by accident, oh mon Dieu, she would come home from her daily outings meeting her many suitors, and invariably a knife, a fork, a spoon had somehow found its way into her purse. And she would say, oh mon Dieu, it fell in my purse. And my mother said, yeah, right, it fell, right? How many pieces fell this time? My mother would say, one of these days, you're going to be arrested. And she said, oh, mon Dieu, who would arrest a sweet, lovely, charming French woman like me? No, no, that will never happen. But we didn't have anything that was the same pattern. They were all different, and I was always allowed to do whatever I wanted, whoever I wanted to give this certain pattern to, and I could give them a knife, a fork, and a spoon, and they were all different patterns. I loved that, because that allowed me to put things together the way I thought they were beautiful, to my sense of beauty. And so I thought, well, okay, that's very interesting. Sort of boring though. I whispered to my mother, I said, Mama, so if that's all they have, just the matching stuff, don't you think it's boring? It's very, very boring. And my mother kissed me on my head and she said, it's all right, sweetheart. If you think it's boring, that's fine. You can certainly think that. It doesn't have to be the way we have it at our house, but actually, this is how most people live. I was amazed. I went, wow, that's it? You have one pattern and it's no variation in the rule? Wow, this is not fun. So I set the table and I said, Tante Gerda, since everything is the same, could I try to make it look maybe a little bit different? And she said, well, what did you have in mind? And I said, well, I see that on your balcony, you have window boxes and you have flowers. So I was just wondering, would it be okay if I go out and I pick some flowers, but different ones? Because I said, I know you have petunias and you have geraniums and there is alyssum. So I was thinking that if I got a different flower for each one of us and put it on the plate. And Tante Gerda said, you know what? That is a really wonderful idea. I really like that you want to do that. So yes, you can go out there. Just be careful. Uncle Ann said, yeah, you just be careful, because when you go out there, what happens if the balcony suddenly falls down because you're so heavy? And I went, I'm not heavy, I'm a little girl. I've seen you go out and it didn't fall down. And he said, well, yeah, but that was when you were here the last time, and now it's already gotten loose. And Tante Gerda has told me I'm not allowed to go out there anymore because it may just fall down. And then he had this incredible grin. And I would say, really? That's sad. You can't go out there, but it's so pretty out there. And Gerda from the kitchen said, don't tell the little one that ridiculous story. She likes you and she believes you when you tell her something. Don't do that. Oh, well, all right then. No, I just told you a big fib. You can go out there and actually I'll come out with you and I'll help you carry the flowers. So I picked all the flowers and I put everything on the plates, and then I said, okay, it's all ready now. Look, I made it really, really pretty. And Tante Gerda came in with this beautiful Bienenstich. They're like a rectangular or square cake, and she had put it on a big plate. And I said, oh, then can I decorate that too? And she said, well, yeah, what do you want to do? I said, I want to put flowers around it. She said, okay, why don't you do that? And then Uncle Ann said, well, let's make it really festive. He had this really deep, I love this man, he was so sweet, this very deep voice. Well, I have a candle, so I think we should put a candle in the middle. Don't you think, little one? And I said, yeah, okay, we can do that. And everybody had, of course, their coffee cups. And I had a coffee cup, and I said, oh, I don't have a glass, I get a cup. And Tante Gerda said, yes, we've decided that since you've started going to school, you know, you're a big girl now, so you're going to have Kaffee verkehrt. Kaffee verkehrt, cafe is coffee. Verkehrt, I don't even know how to translate that. But basically what that is, and they used to do that at my house once in a while, is that you fill the cup with almost like 80% of hot milk, and then you put a tablespoon of coffee in it. Coffee from cat, which I thought was just brilliant, because now I was a big girl. And Tante Gerda said, oh, but I have a really big surprise. Really? What is it? She said, we are going to have champagne. She said, here are the champagne glasses. Uncle Ant's got a piccolo. A piccolo is a little bottle of what is not allowed to be called champagne because it's made in Germany, so they call it sparkling wine. And it's about enough for one big glass. But of course there were 4 of us, so Uncle Ernst used liqueur glasses. I was amazed that they had stuff like that. They had wine glasses and champagne glasses and liqueur glasses. Oh, wow. So my mother said, well, yeah, that's what we used to have before the war. That's what you do. There is a glass for white wine. There is a glass for red wine. And I said, why? What do you mean for red or white? And my mother said, one is a smaller glass, the other one is a much bigger glass. And then you have to have a champagne flute so you can see all the little bubbles. And then there are glasses for liqueur. Wow. And after dinner drinks. And I like, a sweet wine. And I said, really, it's all those different things? And my mother said, yes, there are different glasses for different things that you drink. And I saw like I said, these little liqueur glasses, so they poured the champagne. And that was the first time I tasted champagne, and Uncle Ernst said, what do you think? You like it? And I said, yes, I think that's my most favorite thing I've ever had. I like it, it prickles. And it prickles in my mouth, and it prickled in my nose. And he said, in your nose? Did you put your nose on it and went and sucked it up with your nose? I said, well, no, of course not. But why did it do that in my nose then? I felt it in my nose. And Uncle Ernst said, well, if that's what you felt, it's okay. Anyway, that Bienenstich was totally delicious. I absolutely loved it. Those two were always hugging me, and Tante Gerda always had tears in her eyes when we left, because she would always say, oh, thank you so much for coming. And I really wish that I could have had children, and I would like a little girl just like you. So can you please come more often? And then my mother would always sort of whisper, but I was really nosy. What is she saying? What's Mama saying? What's going on? And my mother would say, yes, we'll try to come as often as we can, but it's expensive to pay for the ferry boat and the streetcar, so we can't come very often. And Gerda said, oh, and thank you so much for bringing the beautiful flowers from your garden. That was very kind. And Ernst kept saying, yeah, well, we're gonna make a baby that's like you pretty soon. And Gerda said, oh, really? I don't think that's gonna work at our age. And he would say, can we just keep the little one for a week? And my mother said, no. You know how her father is. He would just have a conniption if I came home without her. Those outings are very fond memories. I loved those two. I liked it when Tante Gerda and Uncle Ernst came, even though my mother would no longer let Gerda come into the house. So they could only come like late spring, summer, early fall, because there was that hole in her curtain. So we would just, sit outside. But those were lovely people that definitely made an impact on my life. They were just so sweet. So Tante Gerda and Uncle Ernst, wherever you are, I love you and thank you for being so sweet to me when I was a little girl. And that's my story for today. Thank you very much, and I love you.